Stop what you are doing right now. I want you to go to the nearest mirror, open your mouth, and stick out your tongue. Take a good hard look. Does it look smooth? Does it look unnaturally shiny, like a piece of polished glass or raw meat? If the answer is yes, you are not just looking at a mouth issue. You are looking at a neurological emergency in slow motion. That smoothness is not normal aging. It is a biological distress signal. It is your body screaming that your nerves are stripping away their protective coating, your red blood cells are mutating, and your brain is starving for the one vitamin it cannot survive without. Most people think the first sign of a B12 deficiency is forgetting where they put their keys or feeling a little tired in the afternoon. They are wrong. By the time you are stumbling or forgetting names, the damage is already deep in your spinal cord. The truth is, the earliest, most reliable warning signs often show up right there in your mouth, months or even years before the irreversible damage sets in. Your mouth is the dashboard of your health, and right now, the check engine light might be blinking red. Today, we are not just going to talk about vitamins. We are going to save your nervous system. We are going to decode the 5 subtle changes in your mouth that doctors often miss, changes that tell you your body is starving for B12. We will discuss why your stomach acid might be failing you, even if you eat meat. I'm going to teach you a simple sway test you can do in your living room to check your spinal health. And I'm going to give you a wise friend recipe that acts like medicine on a plate. If you are ready to take control of your health with science, not guesswork, you are in the right place. Consider subscribing to our channel. We are building a community here that values deep, evidence-based health for our best years. And tell me in the comments, have you noticed any changes in your taste or tongue lately? Let's get to the bottom of it together. Let's begin with the symptom that likely sent you to the mirror in the first place. We call it the smooth tongue, or technically atrophic glossitis. To understand why this happens, you have to understand what your tongue actually is. It is a muscle covered in thousands of tiny finger-like projections called papillae. These papillae are what give your tongue its rough texture, almost like a carpet. They hold your taste buds. But here is the catch. The cells that make up these papillae have an incredibly short lifespan. They die and are replaced every few days. This rapid turnover requires a massive amount of DNA synthesis. This is where B12 becomes the commander in chief. B12 is a cofactor in the production of DNA. When your B12 levels plummet, your body literally runs out of the materials needed to build new cells. The old cells on your tongue die off, but no new ones rise to take their place. The carpet wears down until you are left with the bare floorboards. Your tongue becomes bald, red, and shiny. A landmark study published in the Journal of Oral Pathology and Medicine found that in a group of patients with diagnosed vitamin B12 deficiency anemia, nearly 25% of them presented with this specific depapillation, the smoothing of the tongue, as their very first clinical sign. That is a quarter of patients who could have been diagnosed just by looking in their mouths. Imagine that your tongue is literally shrinking at a cellular level because it is starved of the tools to rebuild itself. If you see this, do not brush it off. It is a sign that DNA synthesis throughout your entire body is stalling. Now, let's move from what you see to what you feel. This second change is insidious because it mimics other things. It's a persistent burning sensation. You might feel it on the tip of your tongue, the roof of your mouth, or deep in your gums. It feels like you just sipped scalding hot soup, but the sensation never goes away. It ebbs and flows, but it is always there, a nagging, prickly heat. This is not a burn. This is a short circuit. We need to talk about the nerve shield. Your nerves are like complex electrical wires that carry messages from your brain to your body. Just like the power cord on your lamp has a rubber coating to protect the copper wire inside, your nerves have a fatty protective coating called the myelin sheath. Myelin ensures that pain signals are only sent when there is actual damage. Vitamin B12 is the primary architect of myelin. When you are deficient, that sheath begins to fray and dissolve. This is a process called demyelination. When the insulation wears off, the raw nerve endings in your mouth are exposed. They start misfiring, sending signals of heat and pain to your brain, even when there is no heat present. This is a form of peripheral neuropathy. A fascinating study from the International Journal of Oral Science examined patients suffering from burning mouth syndrome and found that a significant percentage, up to 40% in some specific study groups, had underlying hematinic deficiencies, with B12 being a primary driver. When these patients received B12 therapy, their phantom fire was extinguished. So, if your mouth feels like it is burning, do not reach for ice water or numbing gel. You need to look at your nerves. Your body is losing its insulation, and the mouth is just the first place you are feeling the sparks fly. As we continue our tour of the mouth, we have to look at the soft tissues, specifically the lining of the cheeks and lips. This brings us to change number 3, frequent canker sores. We are not talking about the occasional sore from biting your lip. We are talking about recurrent aphthous stomatitis, painful white or yellow ulcers that keep coming back, or clusters of sores that make eating a nightmare. Why does a vitamin deficiency cause ulcers? It goes back to that issue of cell turnover we discussed with the tongue, but it also involves your immune system. The lining of your mouth, the mucosa, is a barrier. It protects you. But without B12, the red blood cells that feed this tissue become deformed and inefficient, and the immune system weakens. The barrier becomes fragile. It tears easily. A seemingly harmless crust of bread or a slightly acidic tomato becomes an assault that your mouth cannot repair, leading to an open ulcer. The connection here is incredibly strong and often overlooked by dentists. A pivotal study published in the Journal of the American Board of Family Medicine looked specifically at patients with recurrent aphthous ulcers. They tested them for B12. Regardless of whether they looked anemic, they found a hidden deficiency in a large portion of them. But here is the beautiful part. When they gave these patients B12 supplements, 74% of them saw a complete elimination of the ulcers. 74%. That is a massive number in medical science. It suggests that for many people, these painful sores are simply a cry for nutrition. If you are living with constant mouth pain, you might not need a dentist. You might simply need a steak or a supplement. Now, I want you to pull your lip down and look at your gums. This is change number 4. Healthy gums are a vibrant coral pink. They are flushed with blood, but if your body is starving for B12, your gums might look pale, almost white, or perhaps a sickly yellowish hue. This is the visual representation of oxygen starvation. B12 is required to make healthy, round, squishy red blood cells that can squeeze through the tiny capillaries in your gums. When B12 is low, your bone marrow starts producing macrocytes, giant, clumsy, oval-shaped red blood cells. This condition is called megaloblastic anemia. These giant cells are too big to fit into the microscopic blood vessels that nourish your gums. They get stuck or they simply don't make it there. The result is that the tissue turns pale because it isn't getting blood. According to global data cited by the World Health Organization, anemia prevalence climbs sharply after age 60, often exceeding 20% of the population. A huge portion of this is nutritional anemia, specifically B12 and folate. When you see pale gums, you are seeing a tissue that is suffocating. And if your gums are suffocating, imagine what is happening to the tiny blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, and your brain. Pale gums are a systemic warning light that your oxygen delivery system is failing. The 5th change is one that can ruin your quality of life in a way that is hard to describe until you lose it. It is the loss of taste, or hypogeusia. Have you noticed that your favorite foods just don't pop anymore? Do you find yourself adding more and more salt, yet the soup still tastes like dishwater? You might blame the cook, or you might think it's just getting old, but it is likely your B12 levels bottoming out. This happens for 2 reasons. First, as we learned, the papillae, the home of your taste buds, are atrophying. Fewer taste buds mean less signal. Second, the nerve conduction we talked about is slowing down. The message from your tongue to your brain is getting lost in the frayed wires. A study in the journal Canadian Family Physician explicitly lists taste impairment and weight loss as neurological symptoms of B12 deficiency. It is dangerous because when you can't taste, you lose your appetite. You eat less, you become frail. It becomes a vicious cycle where you eat less B12 because you aren't hungry, making the deficiency worse. If food has lost its joy, don't accept it. fight for your palate. Now, I can hear some of you saying, okay, I have these symptoms. I'll just go to the drugstore and buy a B12 pill. Stop. Please listen to me closely, because this is where 90% of seniors fail to fix the problem. We have to talk about the stomach acid trap. You see, B12 is a diva. It is high maintenance. When you eat a piece of meat, the B12 is bound tightly to the protein. Your stomach must produce a very strong acid, hydrochloric acid, to rip that B12 free. Once it is free, it has to bind to a bodyguard protein called intrinsic factor, which is also made by your stomach. Only then can it be absorbed in your intestines. But here is the cruel twist of aging. As we get older, our stomach acid weakens. We develop a condition called atrophic gastritis. A study in the Journal of Clinical Gastroenterology estimates that up to 30% of people over 60 suffer from this. Your stomach lining thins out, you stop making enough acid, and you stop making enough intrinsic factor. You could swallow a B12 pill every single morning, but if you don't have that bodyguard protein, it passes right through you. You are literally flushing your money and your health down the toilet. This is why, if you have these mouth symptoms, a standard pill might not be enough. You might need sublingual drops that dissolve under the tongue and go straight into the blood, or you might need injections. You have to bypass the broken stomach. This brings us to a difficult but necessary conversation about your diet, the animal protein necessity. I know many of you are hearing that plant-based is the way to go, and for a 20-year-old, maybe it is. But for us, for the senior body, it is a dangerous gamble. In nature, B12 is found exclusively in animal products: meat, fish, eggs, dairy. There is no B12 in spinach. There is no B12 in almonds. As we age, we are fighting a war against sarcopenia, muscle loss. We need high quality protein to keep our strength, and we need the B12 that comes with it. A comprehensive review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition emphasized that the bioavailability of B12, how easily your body can use it, is significantly higher in animal products than in fortified plant foods. The study warns that relying on fortified cereals or soy milk is risky for the elderly because the absorption rate is so unpredictable. If you are over 80, a strict vegan diet requires medical level supervision. If you can eat eggs, if you can eat fish, please do. You are not just feeding your stomach, you are insulating your nerves. So how do you know if the damage has spread beyond your mouth? I want to give you a tool you can use right now. It is called the balance test, or clinically, the Romberg test. B12 deficiency loves to attack the dorsal columns of your spinal cord first. These are the nerves that control proprioception, your ability to know where your body is in space without looking. Here's what I want you to do. Stand up, make sure you are next to a wall or have a sturdy chair to grab, safety first. Put your feet together, touching, arms at your sides, find your balance. Now close your eyes. If you immediately start to sway, if you feel like the floor is tilting and you have to grab the chair, that is a positive Romberg sign. It means your brain is relying 100% on your eyes because the nerves in your legs have stopped reporting in. A report in neurology clinical practice highlights that this loss of position sense is one of the classic early signs of B12 spinal cord degeneration. If you sway in the dark and you have that smooth tongue, you need to call your doctor today. We have talked about the problems. Now let's talk about the delicious solution. I want to share the Wise Friend recipe with you. We need a dish that is packed with B12, easy to digest, bypassing some of that acid work, and soft enough for a sore mouth. We are going to make a chicken liver mousse. Now, stay with me. I know liver is polarizing, but liver is a super weapon of B12. A single serving of liver can contain 0% of your daily value. It is the most nutrient-dense food on earth for this specific problem. Here is the secret to making it delicious. Saute a pound of chicken livers in good butter with some shallots and garlic. Cook them until they are just pink in the center. Do not overcook them or they get grainy. Put them in a blender. Add a splash of heavy cream, a pinch of salt, and maybe a drop of cognac if you're feeling fancy. Blend it until it is as smooth as pudding. Pour it into a jar and let it set in the fridge. Spread this on a piece of toast or just take a spoonful. It is rich It is savory and it is pure medicine. Because you have blended it, your stomach has less work to do. The nutrients are readily available. If you absolutely cannot do liver, soft scrambled eggs are your runner up. The yolk is a B12 bomb. Eat two or three, softly cooked every day. We have covered so much ground. We've looked at the smooth, shiny tongue that signals DNA failure. We've felt the burning mouth of uninsulated nerves. We've seen the pale gums of anemia and the painful ulcers of a weak immune system. We've learned why your stomach acid might be the barrier to your cure and how to test your balance in the safety of your home. This can feel scary. I know that. But I want to remind you of something important. Your body is resilient, it wants to heal. These symptoms, the sore tongue, the stumbling, they are not a death sentence, they are a request. Your body's asking for raw materials. If you provide them through the right food, the right supplements, and the right medical care, you can reverse much of this. You can get your taste back. You can stop the burning. Your independence is the most valuable thing you own. It is worth checking your tongue in the mirror. It is worth eating the liver mousse. It is worth asking your doctor for the blood test. I want to ask you one favor before you go. If this video helped you connect the dots, if it gave you an aha moment, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube knows to show it to other seniors who might be suffering in silence. And tell me in the comments below, which of these 5 signs have you noticed, or have you tried the sway test? Let me know how it went. Stay curious, stay proactive, and remember, you are the guardian of your own health. Go check that mirror, and I will see you in the next video.